Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of the Sports Curious podcast. Scott and I are really excited to be joined by a special guest this week, talking name, image, and likeness. The CEO and founder of MOGL, Ayden Syal, is here with us today. Hi, Ayden.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Scott. Thanks so much for the time today.
We're really, really excited to have you here. You and I have known each other probably 2.5 years or so when MOGL started coming around, maybe a little bit longer. And so I'm excited to have you here, but talk to the people a little bit about what MOGL is, how you factor in what name, image likeness is, and how that all works together.
Yeah. Well, first off, wow, time certainly flies. That's crazy that we've known each other for almost 3 years now. But so for anyone watching, right, what MOGL is we're a leading name, image, and likeness software company. What we do is we connect college athletes to brands and fans for monetization opportunities, whether it be sponsorships, endorsements, appearances, and more. And then we provide software to universities and NIL collectives to manage their NIL programs.
So when MOGL first started, when NIL, there was a talk 2 years ago in July that this is going to happen. How did it start and how has it evolved to where you are now?
Yeah. So initially, if you recall, right before July 1st of 2021, there were 7 states. So notably, Georgia was one of them, Florida was another, and a few others that had passed state laws that were going to enable or allow college athletes to monetize their name, image, and likeness. So effectively, their publicity rights, get paid for marketing appearances, anything that is not pay for play. On July 1st of 2021, really at the 11th hour, the NCAA made it a national mandate that would make it permissible for all athletes throughout the country to monetize their name, image, and likeness to avoid any competitive issues with those 7 states initially. MOGL was actually founded in October of 2019. At the time, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, put protocols in place that would allow California athletes the ability to monetize their name, image, and likeness starting in 2023.
So it's incredible how it shifted. And if I remember correctly, like the initial model was any agent or agency that works with the university couldn't work with the athlete. And there was this whole back and forth of what that even looked like too.
Yeah, so effectively, the way that the initial language was written, and it's been evolved, and every state law has its own little intricacies as well. But initially, schools were directly prohibited from assisting or brokering in any NIL activity. And in most cases, that's still the case, right? Schools aren't technically allowed to actively broker a deal between an athlete and a corporate sponsor or an athlete and a donor. But we've seen, a number of really innovative ways that universities and others have started to provide value and support student athletes, notably through the outset of collectives, which we saw about 18 months ago or so. And collectives are really organizations devoted to creating NIL opportunities for athletes and connecting those athletes both with donations and donors and also local businesses and sponsors as well.
So they've figured out that loophole, if you will.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it for sure. Universities still are not technically involved in the process. They work very closely with the collectives, though, in order to make sure that their student athletes are supported.
Scott, go ahead. Do you want to ask your question about how universities are using this to draw on recruits?
Absolutely, yeah. Since the implementation of NIL, you kind of just spoke about the collectives. Can you kind of explain where that money comes from and how does that differ from just like an NIL deal? Like where are the funds coming from these collectives?
Yeah, so this is actually changing in a way as well. Historically, right, and this is only a situation that's existing primarily at the Power Five schools, and in most cases, as it relates to football and basketball. Division II, Division III, Olympic sports, they're less active as it relates to NIL as a recruitment arm, NIL as a part of collectives, though that's starting to shift. So effectively, what collectives initially were structured as is many were structured as nonprofit 501(c)(3)s. And what they were doing is they were connecting student athletes to local nonprofits and charities to promote and also do charitable work on behalf of the local Boys and Girls Club or wherever. Um, what was then done was donors, such as you or myself, who want the University of Texas football team to succeed, would donate to the collective, and that money that was raised was then used to pay athletes in exchange for that charitable work. Now, initially, collectives in many cases were set up as 501(c)(3)s, so that donation was a tax-exempt donation. In May of this year, so just a couple months ago, the IRS actually put out a memo that said in most cases, nonprofit NIL collective donations do not qualify as tax-exempt donations. So what it's done is it's created kind of a shift in the broader collective landscape, really to a point where most collectives are restructuring as for-profit entities, and they are really operating as similar to local marketing exchange or marketing agencies, right? They need to connect athletes with corporate sponsors, local businesses, and then donors can still be involved, but they're not getting tax exemption on those donations. So you need to figure out sustainable business models to provide value to donors, whether that be exclusive membership perks, access to events, gear, etc.
Interesting. It's so fascinating how it has continued to evolve, because this is like the wild west of paying athletes, and this combined with the transfer portal has been a whole interesting just mix of things, right? Those are both two brand new things that kind of rolled out around the same time, and it's been fascinating to see how it's continuing to evolve.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that excites us most about the broader name, image, and likeness landscape is just the broad-based innovation that we've seen in just a short matter of time, right? We're in our 25th month of NIL right now. And what's so exciting is when we first started MOGL, it was a marketplace to connect athletes to local businesses and brands for sponsorships. We ensured that all of the activity was automatically disclosed. We integrated all the payment, and we thought, all right, this is going to be terrific. And it still is. That's our core business model. But now with the onset of collectives, with the university involvement, with the enhanced need for additional compliance requirements, our software has become so much more valuable to so many different parties that we could have never even imagined 2 years ago. So it's really, really exciting. And then there's this whole added layer of opportunity with fans that we are just scratching the surface of.
I'm going to ask you about that at the end, because I think that's really fascinating. Like how do you keep up with this? I feel like those of us in a marketing world are always like the Facebook algorithm, all the metas, all the things, you're always evolving that. I feel like you guys are in the same boat. You're constantly having to speak government and lawyer speak and all the things at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely, we're shooting at a moving target frequently. I mean, I would say it's odd to say, considering I didn't even have a Twitter before NIL went into effect, but Twitter has been a major source of news, even for me, someone who's really kind of leading the charge in many ways through the landscape. Twitter helps keep me informed, specifically as it relates to state law and state legislatures. There's a number of really awesome newsletters in the NIL space that I subscribe to as well. Happy to kind of plug those later on in the conversation for people who want to learn more. But then also ultimately, a lot of our customers are the people that are really pioneering change within the landscape, whether that be collectives, universities, or national brands like NBC Sports that uses MOGL's technology. So we're really working with them to really craft the future of the industry. And our ability to craft the future of the industry is continuously being kind of expanded, if you will, as, kind of regulatory changes make it more flexible.
Go ahead on your tampering question, Scott.
I think we're kind of like in the early stages of so it's kind of the wild west at this point. Can you kind of speak to how these schools are using NIL to draw in these recruits? And is there any type of enforcement on tampering? Like NBA, we have free agent period starts this time. You can't talk to anybody before that. Like, is there any kind of enforcement that you've seen on tampering with high school kids and college transfers?
Yeah. So I can't speak obviously from any firsthand experience. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not involved in any recruiting conversations. I'm not involved in any would-be tampering situations. I can only speak on what I've observed in the landscape and headlines and things like that. Ultimately, name, image, and likeness is a massive recruiting tool, specifically for football and basketball, but also for other schools as well. One of the things that's really exciting about name, image, and likeness, and one of the unique value adds of MOGL, is that we're not only connecting athletes with monetization opportunities, but we're also helping them to prepare for life after sport, build professional connections, build incredible resume experience, connect with mentors and would-be employers that they would never be able to before.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this becomes enveloped into a recruiting pitch for a potential prospect. That being said, at the Power Five level, with collectives especially, what that monetary compensation is often woven into a recruiting conversation. You know, if people who say that collective compensation isn't part of recruiting are lying. Ultimately, it is a very real part of a conversation, and ultimately, those conversations are often being had prior to the transfer portal being opened or prior to high school recruitment going into effect. But that's the case anywhere, right? So yeah, I mean, there is absolutely, if you want to call it tampering, there is absolutely tampering that's going on. But the benefit or the thing that still encourages and excites us is that it's generally for a good cause, right? These athletes have historically not been able to get paid for a lot of dollars that they're generating for universities and incredible platforms that they've amassed throughout their high school and then would be college years. So um, if they're getting paid to do something that brings in revenue and helps them succeed, then so be it.
What's your favorite mogul success story?
Oh man, there's so many. From a company perspective, we've obviously won a ton of awards and been recognized for our unique approach in NIL. One of the things that really differentiates MOGL is that we're actively creating and facilitating NIL opportunities for all athletes. We're not just doing this for university partners. We're not just doing this for the starting point guard or the starting quarterback at a Power Five school. So a lot of the stories that really excite us and inspire us every day are those Division II, Division III stories. Couple ones that come to mind. So Caden Cox, he is the first known college athlete with Down syndrome to ever score or appear in a college football game. So he was a kicker at Hawking College, and we connected him with actually a Notre Dame ran organization apparel brand called Jake Max. And Jake Max, their mission is to really highlight the creativity of individuals with neurodivergent needs and such as Down syndrome. And what they do is they match these creators with their designers and create really an apparel line for them. So in Caden's particular case, he's a kicker for Hawking College, and he designed this entire line of T-shirts and garments with kicking field goals. And then because he has such a huge audience and platform, he actually became the main influencer for this brand as well. So it was kind of like he gets to profit on his sales of this merchandise line, and he is the face of Jake Max. So that one's been really, really cool. I mean, there's just so many of the deals that we've been able to strike for athletes have actually resulted in like future jobs, like at the ACC network, for example. We've helped athletes start podcasts. We've helped athletes connect directly with, fitness and apparel brands. So like that's what's most exciting for us. And then personally, obviously, as you guys know, I'm a Notre Dame graduate. My co-founder played quarterback at Notre Dame. 60% of our team are Notre Dame graduates as well. A number of our investors are Notre Dame affiliated. And so the opportunity to support Notre Dame athletics in a formal capacity through our software has been really, really exciting as well.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay, so you talked about fan interaction a little bit earlier. Talk to us about what's next for Mogul.
Yeah. So what's next, really, as I mentioned, right? We have this influencer marketing platform that connects brands and fans to athletes. But then we also have software that's extremely crucial at this juncture in NIL for compliance and operations, both for collectives and universities. So really, what we're focusing on right now is making sure that that software is being provided to as many schools and as many collectives as possible, not just at the Division 1 level. We've had tremendous success at Division 2 and Division 3, which again is something that's really unique about our offer. Um, but then, as you mentioned on the fan piece, we're really, really excited to now formally launch a fan portal into Mogul. Historically, it was just businesses and brands that could connect with athletes, but now fans like the three of us here are going to be able to connect to our favorite athletes for video shoutouts, appearances, autograph signings, and more. So think of it like Cameo, but on NIL steroids with integrated compliance. So we're really excited about that. We actually will be launching that at Notre Dame shortly, and then it'll launch for all of our other university partners in the coming weeks.
Fantastic. I mean, everyone loves the word integrative compliance. So, I mean, that just makes everyone happy. This has been fantastic. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Obviously, leave us with where we can people can connect with you and find Mogul. But anything else you want to leave us with as it relates to NIL or Mogul and the future?
Yeah, so I would just say blanket statement, right? NIL is not what you read about in the headlines, and it's not generally what the media is depicting it to be. There are bad actors. There are payments going to massive, college football quarterbacks and point guards, and that's natural. But NIL is far deeper than that, and the industry is so much more. So, some things that we really pride ourselves with at Mogul is providing equal access and equal opportunity for NIL monetization for all athletes, and the software that enables universities to connect their network to those student athletes in a compliant way. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to www.mogl, it's MOGL, .online. All of our solutions and offerings are available on our website. You can book a demo with our team to learn about any specific area of the business. We are a startup, so we're constantly fundraising and looking for additional capital. So if there's anyone in your network that you think might be interested in becoming formally involved with the Mogul team, we'd love to have the conversation. And yeah, I mean, me personally, my name's Ayden Syal. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, though I barely have any followers. And I'd love to chat with anyone.
That's great. Thank you, Ayden. And you don't have to have followers. It's fine. You can be the voyeur. You're cultivating news really at that point. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing some NIL wisdom with us. I think I learned some stuff. So thank you for that. And thanks for being here, Scott. Thanks for joining me as always.
Thank you, Ayden.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Amy.